Welcome back to Take It to the House podcast. My name is Zach. I am joined by my co-hosts Thatcher and Caleb. And welcome back to another episode on this fine Super Bowl week. We got a lot to cover. Literally the day after we recorded, some big ass news happened.
Yeah.
So we'll jump right into it. But first, 7 years ago, the Broncos won Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers.
Hey, and 13 years ago, the Saints won the Super Bowl against the Colts. So,
oh shit, that's against Peyton Manning.
And 10 years ago, the 49ers lost to the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
so just plenty of good vibes around here, guys.
Fuck y'all. Come on now.
All
All right.
So the thing I'm hyped to talk about, Sean Payton to the Broncos. I'm very excited about this. What do you guys think about that? Before we get our comments, Broncos traded a first-round pick from this year from Miami and San Francisco, and also a third-round pick for next year. And Saints traded Peyton and a fourth-round pick for next year. Oh, it was the
second-round pick next year,
Sorry,
and then we'll trade
second-round pick.
Yeah, and then the Saints trade a third and Sean Payton over.
But what do you guys think about this hiring?
Caleb, go ahead.
All right. So, Sean Payton to the Broncos. I like it, but there's a but. You still have Russell Wilson on your roster.
That's kind of the point, though.
Yeah, but I wasn't like, obviously last season I don't think anybody was sold on Russell Wilson. They were not sold. He took his money and basically was like, screw you guys, I'm gonna just not perform. Granted, some of that might have been the coaching, but once a player's I don't know. I have trouble. Is this just coming from a 49er fan, watching Russell Wilson and all the Seattle and love seeing him fail miserably? Yeah. Fuck you, Zach. Zach, he's given me problems.
Yes, I know.
And seeing the way that he was supposed to take a team to the Super Bowl or the playoffs and just seeing it go like that brought warm to my heart seeing Russell Wilson fail. Not the Broncos fail, seeing Russell Wilson fail.
The other thing you got to think about too is new playbook. Hackett was running a West Coast offense. Obviously, Seattle was not.
But if you're that good of a quarterback, you should be able to adjust.
Here's the thing: when you've been playing in Seattle for 12 plus years,
under a defensive mind of Pete Carroll.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've gone through at least 3 or 4 offensive coordinators in that time, after losing the Super Bowl to Tom Brady in 2014, and then not making the Super Bowl at all, not making the playoffs, and then getting traded. So sometimes it's hard to adjust to a new playbook just because of the playbook you're used to. Because, they went through a bunch of whole different offensive coordinators in Seattle. They still brought the same type of scheme. So I think it was just hard for Russ to adjust because he's going from Washington, which is really a low sea level, right? Altitude.
Yeah.
So that going to altitude and playing there a bunch of times, it can take a toll on you just because altitude is really impacted on your oxygen levels and all that stuff. So I think it's new playbook, new coach. I think it was a really hard time for Russ to adjust because Hackett was also a first time head coach who's now an offensive coordinator for the Jets now, which I think
Rodgers made him look good. Rodgers made him look good.
The other thing, Rodgers, they were expecting to get Rodgers from trading him, but they got Russ. So I think that's kind of where that came in. Other than that, I think Hackett had great hires for his coordinators. Justin Allen did an okay job. Yeah, bye. Gio Evero did a really great job too, even though he's going to be on the Panthers now. But
he's going to have some fun in Carolina.
Oh yeah, he will. But yeah. So now we lost Brian Flores as a deco.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah. I was about to say I like the Peyton hiring personally, but you do need to find a defensive coordinator because the options are running slim.
Yeah, we also need to we need a new whole staff in general too.
You need a whole new staff. But here's the thing: Flores was one of the guys that Peyton named as that he would bring with him. Or who was the other? Fangio. He named Fangio as one of the guys. Now Fangio is the defensive coordinator in Miami. Brian Flores is now the defensive coordinator in Minnesota. And you guys are running low on options here. And so it's like, I don't know. That's what you got to do is you got to make sure you have somebody that you trust on the defense, because you lost Evero, like you said, you lost out on Fangio, who's a great defensive mind, and you lost out on Flores, who's also a great defensive mind. And so, it's just a thing that I think you need a good defensive coordinator. I like the Peyton hiring as the head coach, but I definitely think the defensive coordinator is going to make or break it.
I agree.
My
I
turn.
agree.
My turn.
Go ahead.
Okay. Obviously Saints fan point of view here, real quick, before I kind of go on my deeper thinking about for the Broncos. A lot of Saints fans were upset because they didn't feel like we got enough. And I disagree. I think if you're looking at from a Saints perspective, you get draft capital. So a first round this year. Now, listen, it's not the best first round pick, but we weren't in the first round. So you're back in the first round. You also have 2 draft picks now, back like almost like within 10 picks of each other that you could use to trade up if you really want to. But hindsight, you are getting 2 draft picks for a coach who is not your coach and who clearly did not want to come back and coach you. So I think in a grand scheme of things, that's an absolute win if you're the New Orleans Saints, because the very likely possibility that was going to happen, which is what we thought would happen last week, is he just go back to Fox. And then his value depreciates next year when he wants to test the market again because he only has 1 year left on his contract. So from a Saints fan, I'm also just glad he's not in the NFC. Glad he's not in our division, our conference. I'm glad he's out so he can go succeed, but somewhere else. From a Broncos point of view, I think it's a win because I like that you were thinking, Caleb, that you were like, I think the DC makes or breaks it. And I disagree only because the defense was the side of the ball last season for Denver that was working. And the offense was the side that was struggling with Russ and with whatever the hell else was going on there. So you're bringing in an A head coach to fix the offense. And I think that, yes, you do need a good DC, but the defense is good enough that it could still succeed without having that top tier defensive coordinator. And I think, listen, we know in the NFL, if you outscore the opponent, that's all that matters. So let's say their defense goes down, declines a little bit, but their offense improves. I think, Zach, as a Broncos fan, you would take that, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So that's my thought, both from a fan of the Saints perspective and just kind of broader look.
Could I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Like you said, outscore your opponent, right? But what happens when your defense has to step up against Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that?
See, I trust their defense though. Like, regardless of who's running the defense, you have good defensive pieces as long as they can keep them. And what Pat Surtain's in his next year will be his 3rd year, right? So you're still not paying him a lot. That defense isn't super high paid. I believe Simmons is pretty high paid though, right?
Yeah, he's on a 4-year deal.
Right, but I think that they're in a good position, and this draft is really deep in the defensive linemen and edge and stuff. So I think that it's going to play to their advantage. They have all the offensive pieces really. Their O-line's fine. Their wide receivers are good. Their tight end is good. And their quarterback, I think, just needs the right coach.
Yeah, I agree. Like I was just saying earlier, I don't think Hackett. Like I liked Hackett's hiring just because of we've had defensive-minded coaches since we lost Kubiak and we won a Super Bowl with Kubiak, who's also an offensive-minded coach and won us a Super Bowl. So I was like interested to see how that would go. Obviously, it didn't go great, but now we got Sean Payton, who's got a legendary status with Drew Brees and winning a Super Bowl for the Saints, coaching Michael Thomas, all that stuff. But
yeah, another thing too. Let's look at the fact that Sean Payton was able to win with Taysom Hill and Teddy Bridgewater too. So put aside you can't really, but if you take away the time that he spent with Drew Brees and won a Super Bowl and did all those great things, he went, I think, when Teddy had to step up when Brees got injured, Teddy went 5-0 with Peyton. And then he also won with Taysom Hill when Taysom Hill had to take over. So Sean Payton has a way with quarterbacks, and I think that he's going to get a better version of Russ than we saw last season. It doesn't take much, but I think that he can get in between what we saw in Seattle and last year. I don't think that Russ is ever going to go back to what he was in Seattle. I just don't think that that's realistic. But if you can get, a B plus quarterback out of him this year, you guys are championship contenders with the roster that you have.
Oh yeah, I'm like Broncos are expected to make a like crazy push this free agents period. I don't know
They should
what
defensively
they should
at least.
defensively at least. I don't know what trades are going to be made, obviously. So we'll see how that goes as well. I'm sure both Peytons, Sean and George, will be working together on trades and stuff. Like, all right, should we get this guy? Should we get this guy? Should we get this guy? And all that stuff.
Keep your eye on Michael Thomas too, because
I
could
just
see
looked at that.
I could see a reunion. Yeah, because I think that the Saints will cut Michael Thomas. We had a big debate over our group chat about it, but I think that the Saints will cut Michael Thomas. And then you look at a reunion with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. That's something that a wide receiver can't say no to.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
And you walk in, if you're Michael Thomas, you walk into a wide receiving room that has Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and then you would walk into that room as well. I mean, that's pretty stacked.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right. What coaching move should we move on to next? I think the realistic transition here would be the Houston Texans bringing in their new head coach. So, Caleb, why don't you
I'll go ahead and start this off because I love DeMeco. I love him. I think he's, as contrary to what a lot of people think, I think DeMeco's going to be fine in Houston. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do a better job than, obviously, like you said, it doesn't, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done in Houston, right? There's a lot of improvement. But with DeMeco at the head, with what he was able to do under Shanahan and learn and do all that stuff, and, obviously have the best defense in the league. And, you look at a team that has a couple of, like up and coming, like really good players on the defensive side of the ball, like Jalen Petrie and Derek Stingley. And then
really good.
And not to mention what's their pick? What pick do they have?
They 2 and 12.
They have 2 and 12. So like he has options. He could go get his quarterback of the future, right?
Bryce Young, probably.
He could go get Bryce Young. He could go get Will Levis. He could literally get anybody that he wants. DeMeco could find his guy. And then you look at it and then you go 12, you could say, like you said, it's a very defensive stacked draft.
It
and
is.
He could go, maybe we need to improve something here on the D line, or maybe we go, is there a linebacker out of Bama? Who am I thinking of? Will Anderson? Am I thinking of Will Anderson? Who am I thinking of?
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposed to be a first round.
Yeah,
talent.
and you have a lot of edge rushers in this draft too. Edge rushers and D linemen it's full of them.
DeMeco, what he's known for as well is I would say DeMeco is, I'd say he's a linebacker whisperer. What I mean by that is that he's able to develop good linebackers. Because, wasn't he a linebacker? Was he a linebacker? Was I sure? Or was he? He was, wasn't he?
I think so.
But he was able to develop Greenlaw and Al-Shaair and Warner. He was the linebackers coach before he was the D coordinator for the Niners. And so he was able to help Fred Warner become the best what he is today. And so I think DeMeco's going to do a really good job in Houston. I'm not expecting them to win a whole lot of games their first season. Obviously, I could maybe seeing them go, at best, I could see 6-11, maybe.
Yeah. So I think I kind of gonna jump on your point here. I think he will do better than people are already giving him credit for. Like they're already saying he's gonna fail. We've talked on this podcast quite a bit about the success or lack thereof of defensive-minded head coaches in the NFL. But I think if you go get a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Will Levis, take your pick, whatever. And then go get a Will Anderson. I would be really surprised if Anderson makes it to 12. But you go get a Will Anderson, you get a Siaki Ika, you get a who's that big boy out of Georgia? He's really good. So I think if you put in Bryce Young, You have a couple young wide receivers, Damian Pierce, who looks really good, and you play a defensive. You're a defensive team, and you look at their division. It's a winnable division. We've said good things about Jacksonville on the up, but it's a winnable division. If you really push, you could win that division.
Yep. I also, do they still have OJ Howard, or is he a free agent this offseason?
Not sure.
I know OJ. I remember seeing that they had OJ, because I remember seeing that that, what is it, the Buccaneers? Was he on the he was on the Buccaneers.
He was on the Bucs. He was drafted by the Bucs.
They traded him to Houston. And so I don't know how many years he has left on his contract or if he's a free agent, but I think having a veteran tight end, could pay dividends for a young guy like Bryce or CJ.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and if he wants to go crazy with it, I mean, DeMeco could easily go quarterback, wide receiver. I mean, he could get Jordan Addison, or he can get what's his name out of TCU. He could get Smith-Njigba. Hang on, what's the guy's name out of TCU? It's gonna
Quentin Johnston. Johnston.
Go get him. He's a big receiver. So, I think that he will definitely at least get 2 years, because I don't think that Houston will do the same thing again. 3 years back to back of giving their head coaches 1 year. So I think it's a good hire. I don't think it's a great hire just because of the team that he's walking into, but I think in terms of a coach, I think it's a good hire. So what do you think, Zach?
Thoughts?
Yeah.
You guys nailed it, honestly. I don't know. I don't really have a comment because you guys just basically nailed this shit. But
after that, there's Ejo went to Carolina, and San Francisco just hired somebody that Zach
Steve Wilks. Wilks. I am so excited about that because I like, what is it? I feel like he's going to be a good replacement for DeMeco. Obviously, nobody can match DeMeco's his energy and like his enthusiasm, but I feel like Steve Wilks is going to be able to, because with the pieces that he has on that defense already, I feel like any coach could step in. And
I was going to say, I feel like it's hard to screw it up if you walk in.
And if you look at it, the last two defensive coordinators under Shanahan have both gotten head coaching jobs, Saleh and DeMeco. Look, I mean, and that's what Steve Wilks is trying to do, is he's trying to find the best opportunity for him to try to become a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is like a match made in heaven. I think this is like a perfect opportunity for him. Yeah. So I really like the Steve Wilks hire personally. I think the Niners really did need to find that next defensive coordinator.
I think they need to do it quick too.
Yeah. And because Fangio was a name that was thrown around for the Niners, that didn't happen. And then Steve Wilks was another, and then there was another guy. I cannot remember who it was, but it was being thrown around. And it was not one of the big names. It was somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but those were the two names that I remembered was Steve Wilks and Fangio. Then that's about, and we got Wilks. So, I'm very happy about it because he'll be able to run our defense. And, he actually was, for a head coach, for like being an interim head coach for the Panthers last season, he did an okay job. Like he didn't do great. He didn't do spectacular, but he was winning games with Sam Darnold
and PJ Walker. Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
So I think Wilks is going to be good.
Yeah. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about Ejo going to Carolina? I know that obviously it's taking from your team, but you'll know a little bit more about him than we will.
Yeah. I mean, he had a really great year this year, from being the passing coordinator for the Rams, coming to Denver, having a top 5 defense this year. So I'm sad that we had to let Gerald go, just because he did a really good job with our defense this year. But I think he'll be a good fit in Carolina too, because they have J.C. Horn and they have all these defensive weapons, Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I honestly think it is a good fit.
I think so too, and I think that him and Frank Reich is a good match. I think that they'll partner pretty well, which makes me upset because now the Saints have to play him twice a year. But also a little bit of news, just because we're all reporting on our teams here. The Saints did hire defensive coordinator Joe Woods, who was the former Cleveland Browns defensive coordinator. It doesn't really matter because we have a defensive head coach. So you're bringing in somebody who can work with players and put input, but he's not going to be calling plays. It's going to be Dennis Allen calling plays. So I I didn't really care. My ideal situation is that Dennis Allen's fired midway through this season, or the Saints turn it around. But I think that the first one is more realistic. So
I have a question for Caleb.
What's up?
If I'm Shanahan, do I hire an offensive coordinator this year?
Yes. Yes. Because
Why?
here's the thing. Yes, because you look at what he was able to, I feel like our offensive scheme, it was good this season. We had a good offense, we had weapons, right? But it just didn't feel like it used to, right?
agreed.
Who was the offensive coordinator under Shanahan? Yeah, last year. Do you remember?
Mm-mm.
Mike
Josh
McDaniel.
Mike McDaniels, not Josh
Mike
McDaniels.
McDaniel. Mike
Yeah.
McDaniel. And that's the reason that we were able to like produce. And I'm just like, yes, I do think they need to like get an offensive coordinator underneath Shanahan. I mean, Shanahan, that's not a shot at Shanahan, obviously, because Shanahan's one of the best offensive minds in football. I mean, you take anybody from the Shanahan coaching tree, and they're gonna like, what is it, LaFleur? Because LaFleur was the offensive coordinator for Shanahan like his first year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And when he was the first year in San Francisco, he was Mike LaFleur was the offensive coordinator, or Matt LaFleur. Yeah, the head coach of the Packers right now.
Yeah,
So-
Zach's looking into it. It looks like.
But you take from the Shanahan coaching tree, and there's so many good options. And so if I'm any offensive coordinator, and like, I don't know, I think Shanahan does need an offensive coordinator. I love Mike McDaniel so much. And seeing him get that job in Miami like made me so happy, but just a piece of me was just like, damn, like that was like those guys, that he was his right-hand man for years. And I'm like, but he deserved it. He deserved it.
One, he did well in Miami. I think, given the circumstances of his quarterback situation, I think McDaniel did really, really well. All right, welcome back. To take it to the house, we are going to go over just kind of some trades that we could maybe see happening, or some crazy cuts that we probably still need to talk about. So, obviously, there have been reports coming out that the Los Angeles Chargers will most likely be cutting Keenan Allen. So, do we see Keenan Allen going somewhere? I see him going somewhere where he wants to in win now mode. What do you guys think?
I already know Caleb's answer. God damn it.
What is it? What is it, Tom?
San Fran.
He's gonna stay in the division. He's gonna go to Kansas City.
They don't have the cap space for this shit.
Sign him to a veteran minimum. Done.
I mean, Keenan Allen. I mean, I think they have the cap space, because Keenan, if you say, "Hey, we'll sign you under a short-term contract, small money, but you can come win," I think he would do it.
I think Keenan's going to go pair up with Mahomes and Kelsey. That's what I think is going to happen. Zach doesn't want to see it because he's in his division, but I think that's what's going to happen. Personally.
Hasn't he spent his whole career with the Chargers?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a chance. I mean, yes, I think KC would probably be the best bet.
Either that or Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore. Or he goes to the NFC. Like, that's that simple.
Yeah, I do think that Keenan, even if it ends in a cut, I do think that Keenan has a lot of respect for the Chargers. And so, while I think it's realistic that he could go to Kansas City, I don't know. If I'm Keenan, I don't want to do my old team like that, especially because you have to play him twice a year. I don't know. I hope he doesn't, just for the sake of like, it'd be like if, we're going to talk about it in a second, but it'd be like if Michael Thomas went to the Falcons or something like that. Like, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, like Chris Harris going to the Chargers.
Right. So, thought that was interesting though, because he's had injury problems. So it's not really a surprise to me. When I saw that he would be cut, it wasn't a huge surprise to me. What did you guys think?
Not really. And like, this is the same thing that goes with Gerald Everett too. Like, they're both in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So like, they're a little washed. I still think they're really good receivers and tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
But Gerald Everett just did not see the field enough this year.
Which is a shame, because when Gerald Everett was on the field, he was really, really good.
Yeah, and especially with the Rams too, dude. Like, he was great. And then you got Higbee obviously too, but like,
yeah.
But
Caleb, what do you think? Were you kind of surprised at all or not really?
No, I was not surprised at all, especially with the Gerald Everett one, because I've been saying this for months now. I think the Chargers are going to take a tight end in the draft. I think they're going to go Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid. That's I've said that for the past 2 months. I literally think that this is a sign. These all signs are now pointing to the Chargers saying, "Hey, maybe we should take a look at Michael Mayer or maybe a Dalton Kincaid or maybe even a Darnell Washington."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and I've just said that because those are the three best tight ends in the draft, and there's no question about it. And with LA, where's LA's draft pick? Do we know?
22, I think.
22, 21.
Let
They'll
me
get one of
check.
those
I was
guys.
just on PFF. Let me see.
Vikings have 22.
They will get one of those guys at that if they have that pick. They will get one of those guys.
Chargers are 21, so
Yeah.
they'll get anybody they want.
I think they'll take one of those three guys. Now, granted, if I was to pick out of any one of those guys, I don't know. Michael Mayer would probably be my pick. I love you, Dalton. I do, but Michael Mayer is just if you watch what he did in Notre Dame, he was just outstanding.
Yeah. Well, and also let's not forget Musgrave or whatever. Musgrave from Oregon State's a pretty good tight end too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think tight end would be logical for them. And then I think that they would need to address receiver later on because they're going to end up very light. And it's funny because we talk about Keenan being injury prone, but let's talk about Mike Williams. I mean, he's just
Mike Williams got hurt.
Right.
Well,
so
this season.
they're going to need to go. They need to go receiver as well. But Michael Thomas, Saints, they're going to cut him. There's no way they're not going to trade him. It's not going to happen.
You don't think so?
No team is going to take his contract. No team is going to take that on. And the Saints, they're not going to be able to move that. So I think they restructured his contract about a month or so ago to put more of the money up front and less of it in the future. And many believe that was because they are going to cut Michael Thomas. So round 2, where do we see Michael Thomas going if and when he gets cut?
I'm going to say Denver, to be honest. See that reunion with Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
Or Arizona makes a move because they're trading D-Hop and they just swap. So I don't know. I do think he would be a better fit with at least a good like a veteran quarterback since he's a veteran receiver.
Right.
Even though they call him Slant Boy, he's more of a short slot receiver. But I don't know. He's just a weapon, and honestly, any team could get him that are receiver needy.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how Denver would work that around because we also have Judy, we have KJ Hamler,
right.
Patrick. And
you trade. I mean, if you're Denver, you probably trade one of them and then get something back. But yeah, I think Denver. What do you think, Caleb? If you were to put a team or two out there,
I'm gonna agree with Zach. I'm gonna say Denver, but I do have a sleeper team that could go get him, and I'm gonna say Houston because Houston doesn't really have like great options for wide receivers right now. I mean, their number one receiver basically sat out the entirety of the season, and so
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. And so I think they go out. I mean, they need to get a weapon and why not? If they get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young or whoever. It'd be good for him to have at least one weapon in the wide receiver category. And so who's been there, done that, done everything done what you could do. And so I think I could see the Texans as a potential landing spot, but I gotta say that probably it's going to be a lock to beat Denver. And
I think I'll just kind of go out there. I think Denver would make the most sense just in terms of reuniting. But kind of my little wild pick out there, similar to Houston, I think he could go to Pittsburgh and I think he could succeed because Kenny Pickett was emerging and showed signs of improvement. And I don't know. I think that MT would fit that system because you have George Pickens, you have Deontay Johnson, and then you could put in a Michael Thomas. I think it would fit really well. There's just something about that kind of makes sense to me. But again, I think Zach was right when he said that really Michael Thomas could go to any team, especially if he gets cut, then it's going to be a frenzy. I think because I think a lot of teams are forgetting how good he is when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So, are there before we kind of move on to the Super Bowl? Why don't you guys let's give like hot take, crazy trade, something like that.
Hold on. Aaron Rodgers just this just came out. Rodgers is gonna go to like a dark isolation thing. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah,
you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
saw that.
What
So
is it?
now
What?
it's like some isolation thing.
Isolation chamber kind of thing.
Yeah. So he's gonna
He's
be in there for like
weird, man.
He is a
4 days.
he's a very interesting individual. He is a
Um,
very interesting individual.
so he's gonna make a decision on his future after he gets out of that shit. If he does. He's
Yeah.
probably
I've got a hot take that I think needs to be addressed. I talked to Zach about this earlier on in the week, and depending on if they can get the structure or whatever for it, I think Lamar is going to go to Vegas.
I think I've changed my mind on the Aaron Rodgers thing because I did say that I thought Brady would go to Vegas. I do think that Aaron Rodgers might end up in Vegas.
Yep. I was also thinking it's either going to be Rodgers or Lamar. Those are my two names that I have for the Raiders in 2023 or 2023, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what year it is, man.
Also, real quick, Michael Thomas 8 hours ago on his Instagram posted on his story a picture of him in a Saints uniform during a Saints game flexing. So a lot of people are taking that as him saying that he wants to stay. I think that he wants to stay, but I think that the Saints are trying to be realistic in saying that we're putting so much into an asset that's just not producing, that's not even hitting the field. So
yeah.
All right, Zach, give me if you want to have a crazy trade or it can be anything. What do you think?
I'm gonna stick with Aaron Rodgers trend. I think he's gonna go to the Jets.
Aaron Rodgers to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can also see that considering that Hackett. I can see it.
Yeah. And like you can give up Zach Wilson or Mike White to the Packers. That gives you a brand new quarterback to work with, and you have Jordan Love and Zach Wilson compete. Rodgers gets a locked-in spot. Also, Rodgers gets weapons with Garrett Wilson, Braxton Berrios, and Elijah Moore. So I think it's a good trade. And also you got Uzama, who had a great year with the Bengals 2 years ago. So I think this would be a good trade too. But yeah, I could see like Rodgers going to Vegas. I could see Rodgers going to what was the other team? Yeah, I can't remember. But
who? What?
I forget the other team.
For Rodgers?
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Vegas, New York,
Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I can see that happening too.
Yeah. Okay, I have two. They're both short, but
Okay.
I think that the Saints will trade or sign a veteran quarterback rather than draft one, or they sign one and draft one. Surprisingly enough, you guys are going to roll your eyes, but the Saints have very high odds right now, according to Vegas, to sign Lamar Jackson. Now, I don't believe that it'll happen. Okay, but the Saints were this close to getting Deshaun Watson. So
it's true.
So I think that the Saints could figure it out. I don't necessarily believe it, but I would be thrilled. Or a Derek Carr, which I would be more than happy with.
That's what I was going to say. It was Derek Carr to the Saints too.
Right. But another hot take here is I think that the Bears would be open to trade Justin Fields and take a quarterback with their number 1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I agree with that. I 100%.
I don't think that it's the right move.
No, I don't either.
The Bears could do it.
I don't either. The Bears are freaking idiots if they do that. Like Justin Fields just had a really, really good second year. Like, why would you trade away a potential franchise quarterback
for another potential franchise quarterback?
For another potential franchise quarterback? Like,
no, I 100%. I would 100% agree, but I just have a feeling that they could, and that I think they'll listen to offers because they have the number 1 pick in the draft. They can take anybody they want. So I think they'll either trade Fields and go quarterback, or I think they might even trade down. So it'll be one of those other. I would be really surprised if come draft night, the Bears pick number 1 overall.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't necessarily believe that they need to stay at 1. So I think they'll either trade down with somebody, or I think that they might trade Fields. They shouldn't trade Fields because I think he is a really talented quarterback, but I could see it happening.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
This
tough.
NFL offseason is probably the most interesting offseason I think
Probably
I'm
for a
excited for in a
while.
while.
Yeah.
Last year was pretty crazy too, though.
Last
But
year was crazy.
This year has a lot of different storylines going on.
Right, because you have the Rodgers saga, because we all believe that he's going to be moved on. You
got
had
Lamar.
Brady retired. You got Lamar. You got Derek Carr. You
You've got
got
Keenan being cut. You've got
MT being cut.
like
It's going to get crazy.
it's going to be an arms race.
I think that the
basically.
teams that have a lot of cap space are going to go crazy.
Oh, I think the Bears are going to go absolutely crazy.
Right. So,
I have a bold prediction though.
yeah,
I have a bold prediction. I think the Bears are a wild card team next season.
I think they could be. I think without Rodgers, I think that the Packers are
And with the frauds of
Bad.
Minnesota.
and with the Minnesota fraudlings, but I do think that Detroit's going to be a lot better next year.
I think Detroit's going to take a step up. I think if I'm a free agent, I think Detroit has become a lot more interesting.
That
I think
division's
it is.
really winnable too for any of the 4 teams. Because you're telling me that even if Rodgers doesn't re-sign, you're telling me that Jordan Love can't do as good as Rodgers did this year and have them one game away from playoffs. So
Mhm.
I think that division's super winnable.
Bro, he came in within one touchdown of beating the Eagles. I don't care about that. Jordan Love came within one touchdown
Right.
of beating the Eagles.
Yeah.
So
Should we move on to the big one?
let's do it.
Yep. Super Bowl 57. The spread right now is still 1.5 with Philly winning the spread. The over-under is 51. Mecole Hardman just got placed on IR yesterday.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire got activated.
The Clyde Edwards-Helaire got activated. They have Juju, Kadarius Toney, and Willie Gay still questionable.
I think
Eagles have
they'll
no
all
injured
play.
players.
You think where's Valdez-Scantling?
He's playing.
Okay.
He didn't get hurt.
I think that all those players for the Chiefs will play.
Well, obviously not Mecole because
Right, but
Obviously not.
the ones who were on the injury report minus McCall, I think will all play.
okay. And then Jalen Hurts silenced critics too. Did you guys see that?
No, what did he say?
I know what you're talking about. The one where the reporter was talking to him and he's like, a lot of people didn't think that you would win with this team and I was one of them. I'm sorry. And Jalen Hurts said, cool.
Yep. So yeah, this is like a 50-50 game right here.
I think that this could be one of the best Super Bowls in a long time.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think that Caleb is very excited about it because he knows that his team was that close. However, so let me read. So Field Yates tweeted earlier today, or it might have been yesterday. Let me see. But these stats are kind of crazy. So hang on. Sorry, let me find them. I had them pulled up. Okay. Chiefs this year, 16-3, 546 points scored, 6 All-Pros, including a Kelsey brother and their quarterback, AFC's number 1 seed. The Eagles, 16-3, 546 points scored, 6 All-Pros, including a Kelsey brother and their quarterback, NFC's number 1 seed. That is crazy that they have same record, same amount of points, same amount of All-Pros, and both the number 1 seed. I think that this game is going to be so fun to watch. From a neutral's perspective, if I were a fan of either of the teams, I'd be so nervous. But from a neutral's perspective, I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like, my pick is Philly. What's y'all's pick?
You have your room lit green for a reason. So why don't you say what your pick is?
So, well, I'm going to let you go first because I have some stuff to explain. So go ahead.
Mahomes bandwagon.
Okay. I would rather have Philadelphia win.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I just have this nagging feeling that everybody is counting out Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, just like they did, just like I was a part of when they played the Bengals. And I'm just having this feeling that the Chiefs might win this thing. I can't give my pick because I seriously have no idea. I think it's a coin toss. think when you look at the records and all the stats, it's a coin toss. But I'm just getting this feeling that the Chiefs are being slept on. Somehow they're being slept on. And I think that they have a very high possibility of winning this game.
Okay.
Caleb, go, buddy.
So the reason that my lights are colored this way is because I just thought it looked cool, personally. And with the new
Fucking
Hogwarts
liar.
Legacy, with the new Hogwarts Legacy game coming out, going House Slytherin. And so, but so a couple days ago, I was so locked in. I was like, I'm rolling with the Chiefs. Mahomes going to get it done. Kelsey's going to stunt on Jason, or Travis is going to stunt on Jason. And, everything's going to be, and Big Red's going to get his revenge against his old team and all that stuff like that. Right. But then a point was brought up. And I have not heard about these two like the majority of the season. And then a video came up on my TikTok of Jackson Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes in the box. Bengals in Kansas City. Bengals and Chiefs. And they were celebrating like they just won it all. And I was like, shit. I forgot Mahomes had those two cancers with him. I forgot about that. And so what's going to happen now is I'm not going to pick a team.
Same. Yeah.
I'm not going to pick a team. If either side wins, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning a little bit towards the Eagles, but I'm not going to pick a team.
Mm-hmm.
Because that factor alone, considering even though the Eagles beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game, those two cancers are a big reason I hate the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And so, because I cannot stand Jackson and Brittany. I cannot stand them.
To their credit, they've both been quiet for most of the season. Now is just when you're reminded about them. Yeah, kind of backing off that, like, I don't want to pick a team, and I also want to watch this, try to be watching it as a neutral. So, like, the past few Super Bowls, I want this team to win. And I don't really want to do that. I want to try to enjoy it for the game that it is. Because last year I didn't enjoy it as much because I wanted the Bengals to win so damn bad. And the year before I wanted the Chiefs to win just so Tom Brady didn't win. So, I want to watch this as a neutral, but I would prefer Philly won because Jalen Hurts is quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the NFL. And he's so fun to watch, and their offense is really fun to watch. Keep your eye on if Kansas City falls behind in this game and it's late and they know that, and Philly's defense knows they have to throw the ball, that's scary for Kansas City because Philadelphia's defensive line is scary.
Yeah.
It won't be next year because they're not going to get them all back. But that defensive line is so scary. And with Mahomes still is not going to be 100%. His mobility is not going to be quite there. I just that's a scary thought for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid right there. But Caleb, sorry, Zach, why don't you weigh in a little bit?
Yeah, I agree with you, and Mahomes being less mobile. The Eagles defense is pretty fucking scary. James Bradbury one side, Jay said the other side. You got CJ Gardner-Johnson on the top. I forget who the other safety is off the top of my head right now. But their defense is really, really good. Scary good. So I think Philly's defense will definitely have to step up just because Mahomes is a magician. As everyone likes to call him. I don't call him that. He just makes good throws.
That's what I call him Madden.
Yeah. But I think Jalen did have a great big step up year too, and Miles Sanders obviously had a great year, and so did AJ Brown. So
I think Miles Sanders earned himself another contract.
100%. And I think the only missing piece they really had last year was AJ Brown. That was the missing piece for a receiver.
I think yes, but I also think that Miles Sanders stepped up his game so much that that's another kind of missing piece that they had, is because I don't think his run game was as prolific last year. And I think him stepping it up an extra notch has been huge. And I think Boston Scott provides a lot for them. I mean, I think he scored 2 or 3 touchdowns in his last 2 or 3 games. So, as his second string running back. So, anything else before I had a little idea for something that we could do. So anything else that you guys wanted to say?
I was just gonna go ahead and say, I was just gonna say give picks for the awards that are coming up.
Oh yeah, why don't we do that real quick? Well, I did have something Super Bowl related. Can we do this first?
Yeah,
And then we'll do the picks?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've seen this on the Herd with Colin Cowherd. He does this with every big game coming up. He ranks the 10, but I think we'll do 10. Ranks the 10 best players from both teams, the 10 best players that will be in the game. And generally whoever has the edge. So together. So
okay.
out of the both teams, ranking 1 to 10, the 10 best players. And we may not all agree on certain players, but I think that should be, I think it's a good deciding factor too when you look at how to narrow this game down, because it's going to be so tight. So at number 1, I think we would all agree Patrick Mahomes. Would we all agree Patrick Mahomes? Yeah.
Yep.
Zach's just butthurt because he's in his division, but he knows that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in this game. So I would say Patrick Mahomes at 1. Who would you guys go with at 2? I believe it's another Chief, but
Travis Kelce or AJ Brown.
I believe Travis Kelce.
Okay, I would say Travis Kelce as well. 3. Who is 3?
Hurts.
I'd say Hurts.
I'm gonna go the other Kelce brother,
Jason,
because I think that offensive line is going to be in for a lot. So I think that Jalen Hurts may be the more, I don't know. He's the flashier pick, but I think that Jason Kelce is probably up there. But if not, I would say Jalen, but I would say Jalen Hurts for me is 4.
Mm-hmm. I am going to wait till we get later on, maybe like 8, and I'm going to have a bold pick for 8 or 7.
Okay, so do we want to say, how about, because both of you guys said Jalen, we'll go Jalen 3, and then do you guys have a lot of argument if we put Jason Kelce at 4?
No.
5, what do we think?
5, I'm going to go Miles Sanders here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Miles Sanders.
I'm going to go Miles Sanders at 5, because I'm going to put him above AJ Brown, and here's why. Because I think that if Philadelphia can get that run game established, then they're going to dominate. And I think because you look at some of the players that I looked at the secondary for Kansas City the other day. You look at L'Jarius Sneed. You look at who's the guy? Justin Reed. You look at who's the other safety that's across from him? Who am I? I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing?
For who? Sorry, say it again.
For Kansas City. Secondary safety. Justin Reed and
Sneed and oh my gosh. I know who you're talking about though.
Darn it. Hold on. Kansas City depth chart. Hold up.
So, but you said Miles Sanders, you guys think is 5?
I think Sanders is 5. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I would say AJ Brown at 6.
Thornhill.
Thornhill. Yeah, he's really good.
And if AJ Brown, if they can like not let AJ Brown do too much, I think if you get Miles Sanders involved, he starts running the ball, you get like maybe 6 yards of play. You can't. There's really no stopping that. So I think Sanders at 5.
You guys said Sanders at 5. I'll agree just because there's 2 versus 1, but I think Chris Jones is 5 or 6 because he tore up Kansas City. Bengals. He's your pick at 6.
He's my pick at 6.
So maybe we put Chris Jones at 6 because I think that he brings so much to that defense. So we got Mahomes, Kelce, Hurts, Kelce, Sanders, Chris Jones. Okay. Who's your 7 then, Caleb?
This is gonna be you guys are gonna laugh at me for this one. But I think if he gets involved and he starts having a game and, because people like to make jokes about him. I think if Juju gets going,
he's not gonna get going just because of Kelsey.
But we're also arguing best players in the game, and I don't see Juju being a top 10
I'm
player
putting
in this
Juju.
game.
I'm gonna put Juju. I was gonna put Juju at 10, but I don't know why. But I want to put him at 7.
Well, I disagree just because I don't think that he is
he's the number 1 guy for that receiving core. I mean, I love Kadarius
right,
Toney,
but
he's the number 1 guy for that receiving core.
Both of Philly's wide receivers more than Juju.
Well, the reason I'm not I wouldn't put the Eagles receivers that high is because I know that they're explosive, and I know that they make insane catches, they have all the stats, they do all that stuff, right? But it's just they're important to their team, right? They're very, very important to their team. But does Mahomes have those kind of weapons?
But we're arguing again. We're not saying most important. We're saying best. And I think if we were ranking most important, then yeah. But I think best, I think you have to. I think that Juju can't make a top 10 in best.
Just because of how little he gets thrown to, too. So
yeah.
I had him on my fantasy team this year and he did jack shit.
Yeah.
So
what do we think about 7 then?
AJ Brown.
You think AJ Brown?
I'm going Devontae.
So either Eagles receiver.
I'm going
to 7. I don't think that both make the top 10 though. So I think AJ Brown or Devontae. I think either one.
I would say AJ.
Okay, that's fair. I think Orlando Brown has to make this list. I think he's like their, not quite, but he's like their Jason Kelsey on the offensive line. So I think Orlando Brown would make 8.
Yeah.
What about 9? What do you think, Zach? 9.
The name of Mahomes, Kelsey, Hurts, Kelsey, Chris Jones,
Sanders,
AJ Brown,
Orlando.
I would say Darius Slay. Or
you think
like one.
You think Slay?
Yeah.
I think Bradbury over Slay.
I'm gonna say Gardner Johnson.
Really?
I'm gonna say CJ Gardner Johnson. And I get it. He was a Saint. I get it.
No, but I mean, again, he was one of my favorite Saints. So I think
didn't he lead the league in interceptions?
Tied, with 6, I think.
And so I don't know. I feel like he's like the epitome or like the definition of a ball hawk. And so I feel like CJ Gardner Johnson, I feel like if he locks eyes with Mahomes, I think he could make a couple big plays here and there. And I think he's going to be the most important part of that. But that secondary.
So, but we all put an Eagles secondary player at 9.
Yep.
And then 10, it would be hard for me. I think that a Kansas City player here for me. But who would you say?
I know who I'm going with. I hate to give him his props because of how much I hated him when we placed him in the Super Bowl. I'm going Frank Clark.
Yeah.
Because I think Frank Clark is he's like, and because he plays alongside Chris Jones, he's criminally underrated.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's because he plays along Chris Jones that he doesn't get the recognition.
Yeah.
And so I think that he's a terror on that defensive line.
Yeah, he is.
He wrecks games. And so I think, I've had to deal with it. It's being a Niner fan. I had to deal with it in Seattle, and then I had to deal with it in the Kansas City Super Bowl. So I've had to deal with Frank Clark for the entirety of me being a 49er fan. And so, and just watching him though, I mean, that dude is explosive.
Right. And I think that the Eagles could focus on Chris Jones, and that gives Frank Clark more room to work.
Path.
So yeah.
If he goes on Mailata or something like that, he's gonna.
I think Lane Johnson too is a shout. I can't believe he didn't make this list, but he's also hasn't been fully healthy this year. Mm-hmm. So
he's been playing on a torn pelvis, I think.
Yeah, something mistaken. Like that. So okay, cool. I like that. Definitely the Eagles have the edge there then if you go top 10 players in this game. But it's gonna be a really fun game. So all right, Caleb, for what you had next. Why don't you introduce kind of what we're gonna do next before to wrap this up?
So the night before the Super Bowl, everybody, there is an award show. They are handing out the NFL awards. And there's multiple different categories from offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, defensive player, offensive player, blah, 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 all that stuff. MVP, comeback player, coach.
I believe
So-
Justin Jefferson already was named the offensive player of the year.
Was he?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay,
then Gino
well,
was named comeback player of the year.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
but so I'm gonna start off with MVP. And Zach, you're looking at me, and I can tell why you're looking at me. I'm gonna give it to Mahomes.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think
gonna
there's an
give it to
argument.
Mahomes. 41 touchdowns. It's 41 passing touchdowns. This is what I thought I saw was 41 passing touchdowns. He just 41 to 12. That's an okay. That's a good ratio. And then did he throw for over 5,000 yards? He
I
did.
believe
didn't he?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. And he just, I don't know. I have to give it to Mahomes. I like Hurts,
Yep.
but I have to give it to Mahomes.
I would say I agree. Mahomes is incredible, and I think if Hurts had stayed healthy and had stayed on track like we thought he would, I
Mhm.
think that you give it to Hurts because he's an up and comer. But I think that Mahomes gets it for me.
Yep.
Zach,
I would say Mahomes or Burrow. I think Burrow had a good year too.
I think Burrow had a really good year. I just think he started really slow, and that's
Yep.
what kind of got him in the behind. So okay, next, Caleb.
Offensive rookie of the year.
I think you have to give it to
You have to give it to Purdy.
You have to give it to Purdy.
really.
Yep. What he
Okay.
was able to do standing in as a rookie and a third string with his top two, like with the front two quarterbacks going down and able to go what? Because I'm not going to put that loss to Philadelphia on him. I'm not.
Well, you can't.
Because he played, so he went 8-0 as the starter for the Niners. But if all the fans are going to be like, you went 8-1. He went 8-0 in my eyes.
Will you give me the candidates for offensive rookie of the year again?
It was Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
It
Kenneth
was
Walker.
Brock Purdy and Kenneth Walker.
Oh, only 3.
Yes.
I'll be the lone wolf here then. I'll give it to Garrett Wilson just because of what he did throughout the entire year. I think what Purdy did was incredible. However, he, not through a
48
fault of his
games.
own, he only played 9 games. So
True. I would say
I'll
Kenneth, I
give
would
it to
sleep
Garrett
on
Wilson.
I would sleep on Kenneth Walker too. Kenneth Walker had a really good year this year.
Yeah, and I think that this is the inner Saints fan of me, but I think it's kind of criminal that Olave doesn't make that list. I think if there's 4, I think Olave makes 4.
Mhm.
Or if Olave plays all year because he missed some games. But I think Olave is really, really good. So, okay.
But I'm going to lock in
Rookie of the
Purdy.
year's.
It's already
Defensive Rookie of
sauce.
the Year-
It's sauce.
Sauce.
It's sauce.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
right?
question
There's
about
no
it.
question.
I would have said at the beginning of the season, if we were doing like preseason, I would have said maybe
Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
But
Who's the
Sauce
third?
runs away with it.
Who's the third? It's Hutchison, Sauce, and who else?
Is it Petrie? It's not Petrie. Petrie's not a rookie. is he?
No.
Tyreek
Stingley?
Woolen. Tyreek Woolen, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
Woolen.
yeah,
Yeah.
He's
That
really
makes
good
sense.
too, but I would go Sauce.
I'm gonna
Sauce
go
is
Sauce.
easily a top 5 corner in the league right now. So,
DPOY.
Yep.
Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa.
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
think
say Nick
Bosa. If Sauce was available to give both of them, I think I would give Sauce both of them
Mm-hmm.
because I think what he did this year was incredible, and I think he's only going to get better, which I don't even know how that's possible. But I would give it to Sauce if I could. Who are the nominees for Defensive Player of the Year?
Micah,
Uh huh.
Nick,
Uh huh.
and Zach, help me out here. Who's the third one?
I don't remember.
I think if Micah were healthy all year, I would give it to Micah, but he had injury problems at the end.
Yep.
So Edge goes to Bosa. And then Offensive Player of the Year, we already know
Jay
is
Jettas.
Jay Jettas.
Very, very
Um,
well deserved.
Oh yeah,
Very well
he's
deserved.
incredible. And then comeback is Gino, who I would have given it to anyways. And then Coach of the Year.
Coach. This is where
So-
it gets interesting.
So who are the candidates? Let's pull these up.
Shanahan, Sirianni, Dable, McDermott, and Peterson.
That's a lot.
Yeah, there's
Take-
5. There's 5.
Take McDermott and mother Shanahan out of that conversation.
I'm gonna give it to Dable.
Yeah, I'll say Dable or Sirianni.
Yeah, I would give it to Dable just because what he was able to do with the players that he had. Like, there's no before the season. If you told me they would have made the playoffs and won a playoff game, I would have said you're lying. So I'll give it to Dable. I think Sirianni deserves a lot of credit, but I think Dable gets the edge.
Would you put Peterson over Sirianni too? Because he won a playoff game.
No, I wouldn't put Peterson over Sirianni just because I think that nobody expected Sirianni to be this good. And I also think that we all kind of assumed that Peterson would do well with Lawrence. So, all right. Well, we are running out of time here. So, thank you guys for watching or listening to another episode of Take It to the House. Any last couple words, or are you guys about good?
Enjoy your Super Bowl weekend. Enjoy Harry Potter, like Hogwarts. I don't fucking know what the game's called.
Hogwarts Legacy.
Thank you.
Okay.
But have a great week, guys.
I will enjoy that money from Domino's Pizza. Let's go.
Okay.
Super Bowl Sunday.
See you guys.
See you guys.